If you
picture?
yeah, well, this is a video camera.
Oh,
So if you could say hi and who you are and what you were talking about, just what you were just talking about.
I'm George Frank Reef, citizen of the United States of America. I'm a United States Marine veteran of Korea, and I have received civil death in the United States. I have no rights in this country. I spent the last 30 years petitioning my government for a redress of grievance, the petition of right. It cannot be tabled into oblivion. That is a government crime, but I can get nowhere with my government. I have no access to the courts, no access to a judge, no access to justice. I have received civil death in this country, and I need some help. I'm here to ask for help. The petition of right cannot be tabled into oblivion. That's a government crime. The petition of right brought King Henry to court. And when the people found out the petition of right worked, the king found himself flooded with petitions, and the king tabled the petition into oblivion. Here in the United States, that is a crime. At first, they tried to do that. They did that in Britain. But the petition of right is an old document. The Constitution is an old document, and it goes beyond us today. It is not a political issue. It is a legal issue. There's no politics in it. It's the supreme law of the land, and anything contrary is notwithstanding. I am George Frank Reef. I hold the highest office in this land, the office of citizen. There is no office higher than mine. The office of the President of the United States is nothing more than the civil and political public servant. That's all he is. I am the boss in this country, the bearer of rights, the individual. And that's constitutional. You can't take it from me, but it has been taken from me. We don't have a constitutional democracy. We have a right-wing, plutocratic, democratic, arbitrary oligarchy in this country. For example, the Black Codes of 1865 and 1866. It was at the end of the Civil War, and the people, the plantation owners were seeing that they could lose the war. They were losing the war, and the slaves were heading north to freedom, so they knew they were losing slavery. And they're trying to figure out how to maintain this life of ease and pleasure with a cheap labor force when they were losing slavery. And they couldn't figure it out at first, but then they thought, well, what the heck? Cheap free labor is just as good as cheap slave labor. You just have to control them with labor laws. So the Northern Abolitionists went down and busted their Black Codes of 1865 and 1866. But today, our labor laws are the same as those Black Codes of 1865 and 1866. Slavery is not a racial issue. You have to separate slavery and race because race is a problem and slavery is another problem. But slavery is an economic issue. It's always been poor people working for rich people, and it's never changed. The people of power and wealth ride herd over the people of poverty. One thing I have to admire Ronnie Reagan for, although I despise the man, they're trying to make him a hero. He did say in his Cold War with Russia, he brought it out politically because it was to his advantage at the time, but he himself never believed it. I can't believe he did. He said to Russia, who was calling their people workers, and he said, we in the United States don't have workers. We have free citizens. He made that distinction, but today the government and the news media refers to its people as workers. As a matter of fact, they have a herd mentality.
Consumers.
No. They have a herd mentality. We are the workforce, the American workforce.
Yeah.
We're nothing but a herd of flesh and blood out in the pasture for people to glean their benefits from.